6:23, welcome back. Tuesday morning, really interesting chat coming up here about how to fight fat stigma. Layla Cameron joining us, and the recipient of the Nora and Ted Sterling Prize for Controversy from Simon Fraser University. Congrats on the prize.
Thank you.
You gave a presentation, and when I was looking at this message and looking at my own filters, when I hear the word fat, in my brain I'm like, is that a negative connotation? However, you are pushing forward that this does have a positive message.
Absolutely. I think that we use fat right now as a slur, akin to how we used to use the word queer. But when you think about it, it's a neutral adjective, just like short or tall. And I think as well, identifying as fat aligns my work with the fat positive movement, which is starting to gain momentum today in our society.
So what do you think of people that describe when they're looking at body types saying, using the word fat versus using the word obese? What is the difference to you?
Well, obese is a medicalized term. It pathologizes fatness as a medical condition when, in and of itself, fatness is not a medical condition, and unfortunately the result of that is physical and emotional harm on fat bodies. So I reject the term obesity, and a lot of other fat studies scholars would as well, and instead when we have to use the word, we would put it in quotation marks.
And when you've used this word to enlighten people, and you've given several presentations on this, and you even made a film about a hiking club that started in Portland. Tell us about the film first off.
Absolutely. So the film follows Summer Misha Skog, who started Fat Girls Hiking, which is an organization, as you said, in Portland. And it gained momentum so quickly that she eventually took it international, and her first stop was Vancouver. So we follow her hike, we go up Quarry Rock in Deep Cove, which was really fun. And we just got to talk about what it was like to move as a fat person in outdoor spaces. You'd think that there would be a plethora of space to move through, but even then it can feel so confining on the trails. And
within those conversations that you're having on the intimacy of a hike like this, what revelations came out that really surprised you about maybe what's inhibiting people, or what the general mainstream really needs to know?
Well, I mean, it's interesting that MEC is acknowledging that they don't have people of color in their advertisements because they also don't have fat people. I'm a member of MEC, and yet I don't fit into any of the clothing that they offer. And I think for fat people, a first barrier is you can't find the goods and services you need to safely access the trails. And then a second barrier is there's no community. When I moved to Vancouver, I didn't see anyone else who looked like me, and that can have an effect on the self. You feel isolated, you feel not welcome in those spaces.
It's interesting how you can find community now because of social media. You mentioned Mountain Equipment Co-op's example. They use social media to own the fact we're missing something. So how has social media really changed the narrative around acceptance, inclusion, because of all the trolls out there that could go the other way?
Absolutely. I think fat people receive so much trolling online, and it's really unfortunate. However, social media has allowed fat people to represent themselves. And so, we don't see our bodies in mainstream media usually, and when we do, it's the headless fatty on news, for example. It's not necessarily the most positive representations. So when you can turn your camera on yourself and put your image out there, you're reaching out to other people who can say, hey, you also look like me. And, especially when it comes to outdoor activities, you can see someone like Summer and say, where did you get your hiking backpack? I can't find one that has a waist strap to fit my hips. And so you see these little online communities of resistance popping up, and it's inspiring.
And we also hear about the body positivity movement happening online. There are initiatives happening. You have this film that you're shopping at film festivals, so we'll wait a while before mainstream access. But if there's one sentiment you would hope people take away about understanding and inclusion, about a different way of life, what would that be?
I think we just need to really interrogate our own conceptions about bodies, about how we treat ourselves and what that means for how we view other people. I think quite often people are uncomfortable with using the word fat because we've been taught to reject it our whole lives. What would happen if we embrace that word, and how would that, impact or change how we treat other people?
Well, it's a great sentiment. Congrats on the film. Thanks for being here, and congrats on the award from SFU as well.
Thank you so much.
Great to meet you.
You as well.
We'll take a break.